are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir.
Blake, I'm going to make my comeback today. I'm going to make my comeback in picks. You're up by 1. We're coming back. I can feel it. It's going to be a hot week. We're going 10 for 10. You ready for this?
Well, like if I go 10-0, you can't go 10-0 because we have different picks here.
Obviously. So you're going to go 8-2, and I'm going to go 10-0.
The likelihood of that happening is very small. You know what's funny? Week 0 last year. You remember what happened week 0 last year?
No, what happened week 0? Well,
something happened. Like you went 4-2, and I went like 6-0, and then I got cocky and fumbled the bag all the way down the stretch.
I'm shocked that you were cocky at any point last year for game picks. I do remember that. I do remember I made my long surging comeback, and it starts today. Okay.
Yeah. Well, look, I think it's a really good debate. So we'll give you 10 games to pick from, and Joe will give you ours. I think I was 7-3 last week. Joe, you were 6-4, correct?
Yeah, 6-4. The Vandy game was the trap. I would like to find somebody who picked that game right.
I mean, look, we both lost all the same games, right? Mm-hmm. So you just had a different one. I forget what game it was. I didn't pick Vandy. I picked Virginia Tech too. So look, we'll get into the picks, but we got a lot we got to discuss before we get to picks here. Texas goes up to Ann Arbor and faces Michigan.
Yeah, this one I've got to feel like I don't have like a complete pulse on it. But the spread is huge. 7 points in favor of Texas, which feels really, really big. My only pulse on this, Jesus Christ, twice already. We're not even 3 minutes into the show.
I can't help it.
My pulse on this is I think it's going to be low scoring. I think it's going to be a really low scoring game. I think one team's defense, Michigan's defense, is going to step up, and Michigan can't move the ball. They can't. That was a brutal performance that they had against Fresno State, trying to throw the ball with Davis Warren. It was a tough stretch.
I'm not going to say that they can't move the football, and here's why. Texas gave up 118 rushing yards last week to an inferior opponent. Now, what people get lost in that is that Colorado State didn't score, and you're right. They shut them out, and we'll talk about this. Joe, this ain't Colorado State. You get what I'm saying? I'm with you, okay? But how was it when you faced a real opponent on the road in a loud environment and you were just at home a week ago and you gave up 118 rushing yards? How much different does that get going? And look, Alex Orji can still run. And I think that this can be time possession. And by the way, Joe, we'll talk about that Michigan defense. What if Texas can't run the football too? So I think that there's a lot of different interesting things going into this game. Another interesting game, Nebraska versus Colorado. A lot of people, I feel like the general public is leaning Colorado. Not a lot of people wanting to pick Nebraska, probably, I guess, due to a true freshman starting at quarterback.
Well, actually, if anything, I feel like a lot of people are picking Nebraska. The betting lines.
I've only been seeing people picking Colorado.
No, I mean, the books are even heavily in favor of Nebraska in this situation because of, I mean, it's easy to pick against and bet against Colorado just for the general public to do that. True freshman at quarterback, though, is where I'm going to harp on when we get to that preview. It requires a lot for a true freshman in a big game like this, a rivalry game. Like, he would need to play out of his mind. He would need to outplay Shedeur Sanders for them to win that game. I don't know if I'm going to go that far.
I don't think he's got to outplay him.
I think that he does because Colorado could put up points quickly, man. If this game gets close, it's into a shootout type of a situation.
And Nebraska can keep the ball away.
They can keep the ball away, but
not there. Colorado ran for under 60 yards against North Dakota State.
And that's a concern going into this game. It absolutely is.
So, but I agree with you. Can Nebraska's wide or DBs hang on? We'll talk about that. And in the middle of picks, we're going to talk about Iowa and Iowa State here, Joe. Yep. 8 of the last 11, Iowa State has lost to the Iowa Hawkeyes. I really don't know what to feel about this game, if I'm being honest.
I always have to trust the team with the better defense. Iowa's defense is ridiculously good. They're bringing back a bunch of guys that are NFL caliber players. And I know a lot of people were trying to tell me that I was super low on Iowa State this offseason. They've got a good offense. They've got a well-rounded team. But it's easy to pick the Big Ten team to beat up on the Big 12 team. That's the easiest way to go about it. And we both shared that sentiment with our game picks.
Something very interesting. It seems like every 4 years, Iowa State wins.
Is that really the trend?
Yeah, it's the trend.
I mean, that's an anomaly more than it is something to take into account when making this
three
pick.
Times. When it happens 3 times like that in the last 12 years, I don't know. I really don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
I'm not doing that.
All right. By the way, we have some breaking news here from Matt Zenitz of 247 Sports. Joe, DJ Lagway is going to start this week for Florida. It looks like Graham Mertz remains in concussion protocol, so DJ Lagway will get his first start as a Gator.
Trying to really quickly check who they're playing this week. They're playing Samford, so this is perfect opportunity for DJ Lagway to step in. I kind of wonder if this does have an opportunity for DJ Lagway to bypass Mertz for the starting job. You know, if he comes out and he looks confident and he looks good enough of as much of a spark plug for the offense, I don't know how, and I said this the other day, I don't know how if you're Billy Napier, you don't try to get him involved as much as possible. And if he looks great in this game and he doesn't look like a freshman, if he looks as good as Dylan Raiola did against UTEP, you've got nothing to lose. You want the kid to be invested in being there. And also, if you're Billy Napier, you're trying to have an excuse to turn to, which is, hey, we're starting the freshman quarterback. We're not going to win as many games. Look how good he looks. You need me to stay, so he stays. I don't think there's any downside if he has a good game here.
I'm gonna push back to you very quickly. I actually agree with 2/3 of what you said. Billy really has nothing to lose here. Because if it could help him, if he's got DJ and DJ looks good and performs well, I'm with you on that. I agree wholeheartedly. I think you're 100% spot on with that. Here's the problem that I have with if he does well starting the following week. He's got A&M. And A&M comes to Gainesville. And the last thing that you want to do in a second start is putting up him against a defense like that. I just don't – here's the thing. Here's what I think will happen. I think DJ Lagway is going to perform pretty well against Samford. It's going to build up some momentum. They're going to go into week 3. They're going to start Mertz against Texas A&M. And if he starts poo-pooing the bed, Lagway's coming in. That seems a little bit more plausible to me of how they're going to go about it, because I don't think you want to just let DJ Lagway loose like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like that would be the better way to counteract it.
Right. When I'm pitching the premise here of start DJ Lagway, it's less with if he looks really good against Samford, just keep him in. It's more so Graham Mertz comes back for Texas A&M. If the offense is still shaky and he plays as bad as he did against Miami, or maybe a little bit better, but still not in an exciting manner where it's something to turn to of optimism of like, hey, maybe Florida can turn around if they do X, Y, and Z. If that offense still looks like shit, put DJ Lagway in after the Texas A&M game or a couple weeks down the line. You'll have that as evidence to say, hey, man, like, look, there's something promising here. Why are we wasting our time with the upperclassmen? It's kind of like the inverse of the situation that happens with Michael Penix and Kirk Cousins, where they didn't want to put Michael Penix in anymore in the preseason because they don't want fans to be able to sit there and say, why aren't you putting Michael Penix in if he looked really good in the preseason and Kirk Cousins struggling? I'm just saying, like, if you have evidence, use that evidence and just say, look, the kid looked promising. Let's get him onto the field. If we lose games, we lose games. There's nothing to gain or to lose.
The kid's confidence is something that could be lost. So I just, I know you're going to clip this and Florida fans are going to be mad at me. I'm going to be real with you. You can't give Mertz, you can't just, how do I want to say this, Joe, because I don't know how to really say it, but I don't think Graham Mertz has done anything at the current moment to be benched. You know what I'm saying?
But he hasn't done enough to really deserve.
DJ Lagway went out there and went 3 for 6 and threw a pick and looked very confused on what Miami did. So what do you think A&M's going to do? You can't. I'm telling you, this kid's not ready for this, man. He's not ready.
We can't make the decision after 6 throws, though.
Okay. Watch. I'll bet a lot that he's not ready against that A&M. Don't throw him out there, Joe, and hurt his confidence.
I'm not saying throw him out there against A&M, but I'm saying midway through the year, I'm starting him.
Okay. All right.
Otherwise, he's gone.
We got 2 Elks super chats here. It says Texas wins. Elks is our regional Ohio State fan.
Mm-hmm.
Texas wins 27-3. Their O-line is booty cheeks. They have no QB, no wide receivers. Texas wide receivers going to pick that secondary apart. You got to back off on that. That's BS. Fresno QB just isn't good. You better realize who Will Johnson is. He also said, Joe, after Howard's 18 rushing yards, he has 95 more yards than Kyle McCord last year. Do you still think it's not an upgrade?
Kyle McCord played great in week 1 also. So let's keep track of how both of these guys look. One guy is obviously a better athlete. Of course, Will Howard's going to have more rushing yards. Like I get what he's doing. We're going to keep getting Alex. I appreciate the super chats, but we're going to do this every single week until there's any push in a different direction on the whole Will Howard thing. Look, he looked fine. He looked fine. Great rushing total for him.
Elks just stays on these same things every week. But, hey, man, I love him. All right, let's get to it. Let's talk about our good friends over at BetOnline.ag. When we come back, we're going to break down Texas versus Michigan. But in the meantime, do us this favor. Hit the like and share to all those groups on Facebook. Share to all of those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell. Wherever you guys listen to podcasts, do us a favor by rate, reviewing, and subscribing. Joe, let's talk about our good friends over at BetOnline. We're going to come back and break down Texas, Michigan. We do that next. Stay with us. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's BetOnline.ag, BetOnline.ag. We're back. I find it ironic that every time that we talk about Texas, it's right after that thing is played. But nevertheless, we are back. We are here. Joe, I just asked somebody at Florida a question about Graham Mertz. Mm-hmm. I think he might be in a little bit of trouble. Meaning, I think that concussion was a little bit worse than people were leading on. Okay. Maybe he does start against Texas A&M, meaning DJ Lagway. We'll see. Maybe I shouldn't have run that, but nevertheless. Texas goes up to Ann Arbor, Michigan this Saturday, Joe, which was probably and more than arguably going to be the biggest game of week 2. Two massive brands going at it in Texas versus the reigning and defending national champion Michigan Wolverines. Look, I think that there's a lot of intriguing storylines when it comes down to this game. I guess when you look at this, how do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, Michigan had a really rough week 1. A game that you don't want to play out of the gate. Oh, wait, stop. Hold. They had a rough week 1. It's not how you would expect a team that just won a national championship to come out of the gate. But a lot of times, plenty of times, teams will have a sleepwalking, hungover type of a game against a much lesser opponent. So I'm saying this to say I'm not getting all my takeaways from that Fresno State game. But what needs to be taken away is that wholly new offensive line looks like it's still figuring itself out. Davis Warren is not good enough of a passer to elevate that offense. And it's confusing rotating in Alex Orji. I feel like they haven't really still fully decided on who they're going with. I think that they need to pick one guy and move forward with them, and maybe Orji contributes in some sort of a package. Talking about how I think this game is going to play out, I'm leaning Texas. I don't think that this game is going to be heavily lopsided because I think Michigan's defense is so freaking good that they're going to keep this game low scoring. I could totally see this playing out as like a 7 to 10 point win for Texas, which isn't lopsided, but is just a really nice victory. And the final score is like 24-14. I don't feel like this got blowout territory at all written on it, as much as Ohio State fans would love for that, and the rest of the college football world would love for Michigan to be burning to the ground right now. Their defense is too good, but inversely, their offense does not have enough to keep up with Texas if they put together a couple of quick drives and a couple of big explosive plays.
Well, a lot of people think that because of what Stallions did on the Netflix documentary. Let's just throw that out there. I'm not giving my own opinion. I'm just saying that's why a lot of them want that to happen. Joe, there's 4 main storylines that I see going into this game. Number 1, can Texas run against Michigan? That defensive front 7 for Michigan is really scary. Now, I should have looked at this before we got in here, but Jaden Blue kind of got nicked up last week against Colorado State. I'm sure he's good to go. I don't know the status of that right now, but he did kind of get beat up a little bit. I need to see Texas being able to establish the running game. Like, we have a lot of expectations for Texas this year, and you're about to go against one of the more elite defenses in the country, regardless of what anybody says. Mason Graham is a dude. They got multiple dudes along that defensive line that are dudes. They have arguably the best corner in the country, who, by the way, Joe, had a pick 6 last week that went 86 yards for a touchdown, and Will Johnson. I think that this game has a part where if Texas can't get a running game going, and Quinn Ewers is having to be your offense, can he finally get over the hump and put the entire team on his back against a defense like this that's going to get them where they want to go? I'm going to throw this out there. I don't think that Quinn Ewers at all played bad last week. But you know what I wanted to see from Quinn? I wanted to see him not make dumb decisions. And the interception that got batted up in the air, that got picked off, was a dumb decision. He's trying to it's the same thing every year. He tries to get up in the pocket and make a play, and he makes a dumb decision. You know what I know? Here's what I know. When you do that against a team like Michigan, that kind of stuff can backfire against you. Ask me about the Washington playoff game last year. When you make dumb decisions, defenses like this will make you pay. Now, can Michigan score at all either? Right? Like, I mean, that's the whole part in this that I think that is so intriguing in reference to this game, because, Joe, I don't know if Michigan is going to be able to score either. Now, Dylan Edwards last week, 11 carries, 27 yards. What's going on with that? They did get some really good things from Mullins. He had 15 carries, 92 yards. Look, I thought they did some good things in the running game, but I think you hit the nail on the head here. What's going on with Davis, Warren, and what's up at quarterback with Orji? Now, Orji threw 2 passes last week. 1 went for a touchdown. Now, Davis had some good throws, but he had a bad pick where he was late. So I just look at this and say, Joe, I'm really needing to see what both offenses can do here. The difference is that Texas is just much more established offensively, and it's why I lean them, okay? I lean them because of those wide receivers. Ultimately, they got a lot of explosive playmakers. But I do think that this could be a 3 to 5 point game, to be honest with you.
I think it's going to be a little bit more than that. I don't look, I understand that, like, you're trying to say that, like, look, Quinn Ewers can't make silly mistakes against that defense.
He can't.
That defense can't just solely win them the game. That defense is one of the best in the country. I'm going to absolutely give it its props.
Let's pick Texas.
Texas's defense is still very undervalued. I thought that their secondary showed us a lot of promise for what they could be this year, and that there are more playmakers back there than maybe we thought during this offseason. If Davis Warren's throwing picks against Fresno State, what is going to happen for him against Texas?
Colorado State.
Okay. The pick that Davis Warren threw is very different than the dopey decision by Quinn Ewers.
No, it's not. Let me explain to you why it's not. A first-time quarterback being late on a post in double coverage, I don't mind. Like, I don't mind.
Well, but coming into a game like this, it does matter.
Please hold on. I don't mind that he had a late read, but the right read. What I hate when you're making dumb decisions is what Quinn continues to do, Joe. Like, this is a fifth-year guy that's coming in here making the same mistakes over and over again. You're talking about a kid in Davis Warren that went into his first start, and he made a bad decision versus Quinn Ewers, who also has had more playing time than anybody at quarterback, and we're saying that he's not making a worse decision? Get out of here with that.
Wait, no. You love to bring up that he makes the same mistakes over and over again, but he also makes great, huge plays over and over again. This isn't DJU who doesn't do anything for his offense. I don't care that if I have a guy who's trying to do something and he's trying a little bit too hard and he ends up being a little bit too risky in his decision-making and he messes up. Yeah, he shouldn't have thrown that ball. He should have just stepped up in the pocket and scrambled and picked up yards. But instead, he's not paying attention. He's not checking his peripheral, doesn't realize there's a defensive lineman there. Ball gets knocked out of his hand. I'd rather have a guy that's going to take a risk, that's trying to make plays, that I know is going to find playmakers down the field.
They were up 40.
That was earlier. They weren't up 40 when that pick was thrown.
Yeah, it probably weren't. But they won 52-0. My point is, Joe, come on. Like, do you not see that? Like, that's a common theme. Like, you're making it seem like that this isn't a common theme.
It happens, but
Is
I always he makes mistakes, but I always come back to
theme, yes or no.
I just said yes. I would rather have Quinn Ewers, Cam Ward mistakes than Davis Warren, DJU mistakes. There's a clear separation in the stat lines that they had.
One game of Davis Warren
against Fresno State, he didn't go over 200 yards passing.
Fresno State is better than Colorado State, bud.
That doesn't matter. They're not that far off from one another. They play in the same conference. If they matched up today, that would be a one-score game if they played one another right now.
Okay. Well, he certainly found Colston Loveland, who I want to talk about next a lot. Joe, I got to ask you a serious question. Can Colston Loveland make an impact here? Can they draw up enough to get him the football? He had 8 catches, 80-plus yards, and a touchdown last week. I'm going to be honest. That kid might be the best tight end in the country.
Well, I think that's a given. We had him as our number one tight ends. I mean, that's your de facto guy that you need to go to. But I would throw that back at you by saying he had all that production. I don't think that he's necessarily the game changer in this. It's who the heck are the receivers that are emerging for Michigan? That's why I just have such a lack of confidence and fear of like investing any faith in what Michigan's offense is going to do in Michigan in general, because I know that they've got Golden and Isaiah Bond on Texas. If they need a quick 1-minute drive and they need to go down the field, they can do it.
They're not going down on the field like that over and over again. I mean,
not over and over again. Hold on, I didn't say that.
What you're making it seem like is, hey, if they need a 1-minute score, they can go get it like that. Joe, you're for what defense?
Okay, well, you're misunderstanding my point. I'm not saying that it's easy and an immediate they can just score at will. I'm saying that they've got big playmakers. So if you need to drop a play and something, you need to generate big yards, you have a quarterback who can sling it and you've got receivers who can stretch the field. I don't know what Michigan has. Michigan doesn't have that. Their best receiver's gone. Roman Wilson's in the NFL.
All right. Here's another thing, too, I want to bring up about this game that I think is very interesting. Colorado State ran for 118 yards on Texas last week. By the way, Michigan also held Fresno State to, what was it? 9 rushing yards.
Okay.
So here's a question that I have. Now, on Monday, you and I, or was it Monday or Tuesday? I forget. On Monday, you and I talked about when teams are stopping any team whatsoever to 10 rushing yards, that's elite. I mean, how big of a difference is it on both fronts on the defensive line, especially in that interior? Joe, that's what I keep coming back to, is that you legitimately had a defense that, Joe, is borderline elite stopping dudes in the run game.
Yes.
What is Texas' biggest weakness?
I don't know. What is it?
It's probably going to be running the football. If we're being honest with one another, we got to see them establish the running game before we're starting to crown them. And this week is not that week to do that. Joe, I look at them. I know that Blue went 11 for 57, under or just over 5 yards a carry. Jarrett Gibson 10 or 10 carries, 67 yards and a touchdown. Like, Joe, those holes are going to be eaten up. Like, that front seven from Michigan, Joe, we're talking about elite, bringing a lot of guys back, brother. That's
okay.
I just can't see it being more than could it be a 7-point game because Texas goes down the field and scores late? Yes. I can't question that. What I worry about in this game is, what if that Michigan defense can start generating turnovers? Then or just regular overall stops. That's the thing. You know what also I thought? Let me kick this to you before we go to the next game. You know what this is starting to remind me a little bit of?
What?
Texas, Alabama last year.
In what?
Think about it. Think about it for a second.
So you're saying that Michigan is Texas in this situation?
No, I'm saying Michigan is Bama. Struggling at quarterback.
Yeah.
New staff other than the head man. I mean, I get that it's different. But offense might be anemic. Okay, but very solid defense, very solid corners, very solid up front. That's Bama from a year ago. Okay, and what happened in that game late? What happened in that game late was Alabama's offense couldn't sustain anything. Texas opened it up, and it was we know what happened at the end. That's how I could see it playing out. I just think that Michigan front seven is a little bit better than what Alabama had a year ago. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I mean, that was literally what I had equated this to when I was doing my notes for this game, where it feels like a signature moment for Texas against a blue blood team that just won a national title, that is going to be a momentum builder for them. And you just highlighted how I think this game plays out. Texas won that game with a good margin. They didn't blow them out, but they had control of that game about midway through the fourth quarter. We felt pretty confident that Texas was going to win. And what helped them, they were struggling to get yards in short area. They were struggling to really get the ground game going, but then they connected over the top. They started taking shots on a secondary that was one of the best in the country. So eventually, this is kind of my whole point why I have a lot more confidence in Texas, and I really have no idea where to put my attention with Michigan, is that if you have a quarterback who can sling it and receivers who can stretch the field, if things aren't working, eventually you can just say, all right, we're going to start taking shots. We're going to try to take shots. We're going to keep setting things up. If they keep stopping us, we know that we've got one of these plays in the back pocket that we're going to hit them over the top. If there's a team that can do that and can create a little separation, win the game by 10, it's Texas. I think that Michigan's going to be a good team this year. It's just, this is not the type of a game that's good for them, is having to go up against a team that has splash play type of athletes on offense that could create enough separation that it takes too long for you to try and get back into the game because your quarterback situation's unsettled and your starting quarterback, Davis Warren, is inconsistently accurate.
You can't say he's inconsistently inaccurate or inconsistently accurate when he's played one game. You do this with quarterbacks every year.
I get that, but he was all over the place with some of his throws. I can't beat around the bush and say that he struggled.
Joe, who's the best quarterback in college football right now?
Cam Ward.
You know, in
Carson Beck.
You know, in Cam Ward's first game and in Connor Ward, you knew he threw 4 picks.
Okay.
All right.
Wait. Did he actually?
Yeah, he did. It was Southeastern. I was there. Go look it up. I'll wait. I was in there in person.
Can't find it.
It's
gonna take me. Well, it's gonna take me in a while to go find this.
I don't care what those FCS stats tell you. You know how I know?
Why?
I was there. I was there. That's
not loading.
It's your boy's alma mater, bro. What you talking about?
Passing stats here. I don't know. That wasn't. When did they play? I don't even see Southeastern on
it's
there.
5 years ago. It's was it right? 2019?
No, he had actually, if this is the 20, I don't know if this is the right season or not. His first game of the 2021 season, he threw for 352 and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, it wouldn't be 2021. No, it'd be 5 years ago.
His first game against McNeese, he had 306 for 4 touchdowns in February of 2021. That was in the
Dookie water. Dookie water. You hate quarterbacks. That's just the truth.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, and against Southeastern, he threw 6 touchdowns.
No, he didn't. I don't care what that says.
What?
No, he didn't.
This is the Incarno Award? Okay, all right. It's the Incarno Award website. What you think they're okay?
All right. Maybe I'm thinking of another game. I don't know.
Maybe thinking of Lindsey Scott.
I might be. One of them threw 3 or 4 picks. All right, you ready to get into Nebraska, Colorado?
Yeah, that's it.
Joe, a really premier matchup this weekend against, well, a rising brand against another rising brand, Nebraska versus Colorado. Look, I think Colorado, who last week had a really interesting game against North Dakota State. A lot of people tuned into that game, and you're in a dogfight in the fourth quarter with an FCS opponent. Going against a Nebraska team who's yearning for a winner to get back to relevancy. They get a 5-star quarterback in DeLeone Raiola, who played really well in week 1. Joe, this is a game inside of game of matchups between both of these opponents. I guess, how do you see this one playing out?
First of all, entertainment value. I mean, this is awesome. DeLeone Raiola bursts onto the scene, has an unbelievable game against UTEP. So we're juiced up about getting to see him square off with Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. This game deservedly is going to have a ton of eyes on it, and the reactions after it are going to be probably outlandish depending on in any direction. If Colorado wins, if Nebraska wins, there's going to be a lot of overreaction from both fan bases. I look at what Nebraska did, and I see a lot of offensive success and positive signs that would dictate that they can have a more well-rounded approach to what North Dakota State did and really stress Colorado. But I lean Colorado in this one, Blake, because I think it's very risky to put faith into a true freshman quarterback. And if anyone wants to criticize me for bringing that up and saying that, it's important. True freshman, as much as I was just pushing for DJ Lagway to start, in a rivalry close game like this, sometimes they try to do too much. And DeLeone Raiola is the king of sometimes trying to do a little bit too much. I think he's going to have a huge game. But again, to put full faith in a true freshman against Shedeur Sanders, who's going to be a top 15 pick, top 5 pick, maybe even higher than that, and Travis Hunter, who is the best player in the upcoming draft, in my opinion, I just think that that's where the separation is. This game is close because certain position groups are strong for one team compared to the other. And there's a little bit of balance in this matchup. I'm going to pick the team with the established superstars that have played a little bit more together. And if they need to pick up a late touchdown, I have faith that they can do it.
You're going to go with the established superstars. I'm going to go with the established fronts, the established O-line, the established D-line.
It's fair.
Joe, look, man, I can't get over that last week North Dakota State ran for 157 yards on Colorado, and Colorado could only generate 59 rushing yards. Joe, when you can line it up and run it right at them, and you have a quarterback like DeLeone Raiola, I think things become a problem for Colorado. You remember this game last year? Wasn't it Jeff Sims who, this was a game last year, and Jeff Sims was out there, and Nebraska had so many different opportunities to win the football game.
It did get blown open, though, eventually.
Yeah, it did, but Jeff Sims did what? I mean, they made multiple stops after multiple stops, and Jeff Sims couldn't get – I don't see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where I would push back on me, who is going to take Nebraska, who I agree with you. I'm terrified of those receivers versus this Nebraska DB core. I am terrified. That's why, I'm going to pick the game because I have no money on it. I'm staying completely away from it.
Oh, I wouldn't bet on this.
Anything in this because I think that you're right. These are two different style fighters that are going up against one another. I feel like Nebraska is the team that just wants to jab you and take body shots the whole time, and Colorado is the team that only wants to throw those haymakers and knock you out every single time, right?
And they leave their chin wide open, though, and that's the problem.
And that's the problem when they do that. Nebraska last week, Joe, against UTEP ran for 223 yards And it wasn't just that they ran it for that much that impressed me so much. It was that they went 11 of 17 on third down. They didn't ask Raiola to do much. They continued to run the football and be dominant all throughout the game. The 40-7, I'm going to be honest with you, Joe, is such a farce in this one from last week because the way that they dominated on the lines of scrimmage, right? Like, and I'm looking at that defensive front of Nebraska, and I'm like, hey, man, I get that this is UTEP. But when I watch teams like Georgia or watch teams, I'm not saying they're that, but that's how you look like you dominate one of these teams, right? Like they dominated majority of that game up front, and they kind of took the air out of the ball, just gave Raiola some easy throws. The question that I have here is, like we mentioned, can Nebraska's DBs hold on? Joe, I got to ask you the honest question. Can Colorado run the football? Because if you can't and you can't establish a running game, Shador's going to be in a lot of trouble. They got defensive linemen at Nebraska that can get after him, and that's where I think that it starts causing problems if you can't generate a run game. That's my biggest worry. But as I finish it out here on this, and we'll just kind of go back and forth here, I'm with you on the Raiola, man. If Colorado – like Deion could throw something at this kid that gets him confused and he throws a pick. And I get that. I just don't know if he's going to make those big mistakes like over and over again because I think they're going to run the football and not put the game solely up to him too.
So you first of all, you brought up Nebraska's secondary. There one play that really stood out to me where UTEP had this. Yeah, they had this little 5'7" receiver who just separated and had a pretty easy time scoring. They've got receivers in bunches at Colorado, as we know. That's part of the reason why I think that they're going to be able to pick up those types of plays that if Nebraska's trying to control the clock and really try to control the time of possession, that if they're given a small amount of time to work, which they did against North Dakota State, if they needed to put points up on the board, they were going to be able to get that ignition to the fire to get themselves back into the game. But you bring up the really important part to this. Colorado will not win this game. And my prediction will be wrong if they can't have a better time running the football. And more importantly, the interior of their offensive line has to play better. They were allowing way too easy of pressures to North Dakota State in that game, and they could not get any push. And I'm going to keep coming back to this. I don't like Pat Shurmur. I am so sick of Pat Shurmur, who is such an overrated offensive coordinator, and he stunk when he was a head coach of the New York Giants, and he stunk when he was the offensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos, and he was slightly above average when he was the offensive coordinator for the Vikings that got him the Giants job. If I see him run a freaking inside zone between the guards rushing play on second and medium again, I'm going to lose my freaking mind. He does the same redundant, predictable, stupid play calling over and over again. They can't run the ball because Pat Shurmur sucks at play calling. So yes, to your point though, they need to run the ball, and Shurmur's got to stop calling the same stupid plays over and over again.
Joe, does it worry you that last week North Dakota State went 7 of 13 on third down?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Nebraska, here's what I feel like is going to happen in this game. I feel like that North Dakota State, in the way that they attacked Colorado, is the great value version of what Nebraska is going to try to do. Like you just basically last week, Colorado faced the same style of offense, same style of what they want to do. And so they're going back after it in week 2, but they're going up against it with a better opponent, an opponent that will knock you out. Joe, I'm going to tell you, man, brother, when you can establish the running game like North Dakota State did last week, and you hold on to the football for 36 minutes, which is exactly what Matt Rule wants to do here, Joe, look, I get that Jimmy Horn is a dude and a beast. He had 7 catches, 198 yards last week. Travis Hunter had 3 touchdowns. He also had 7 catches. I just don't know how you don't take the ball out of their hands and keep it away from them enough to just not wear that defense down completely. And by the way, this is what was my deciding factor in this one. Where is the game played?
It's in Nebraska.
I think it's time. You know what I think is going to happen here? In an ironic way, I think that this is what gets Nebraska rolling a little bit. like their fan base, their momentum. I think that this game means more to them than any game that they've had in quite some time, if I'm being honest.
I mean, there's definitely truth to that. I push back on your time of possession comment because winning time of possession only matters if you finish drives. North Dakota State didn't finish a lot of their drives, and that was why they lost the game. If they can't finish,
Nebraska will be that way.
Colorado had a really strong time in the red zone against North Dakota State. I'm just saying, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion.
You think Nebraska's not better than North Dakota State?
They are better than North Dakota State. Obviously, they're better than North Dakota State, but North Dakota State still is a very good competitive tune-up game compared to playing UTEP. That needs to be acknowledged. All I'm trying to say here is that I'm not saying that Colorado is guaranteed to end their drives, but they might try to sustain drives and they might try to slow the game down. They still need to finish, though. Like, they need to finish drives. They can't just try to take time off the clock.
I'm with you. I feel you. That's what she said. All right. I mean, that's what she said.
I don't think that applies for what I said. I don't think that works. Do you have to finish drives? That's a reach.
You said they have to go in and out and finish.
That's not. No, you were manipulating what I said.
Penetrate, go in and out, and finish.
Okay, now you're really adding words to this.
Okay, I'm just saying.
We had a super chat, by the way, before we
did we? Okay, let's get to it right here. Tyler Evans says, "Do you trust Michigan's defensive line or Texas's offensive line?" A $4.99 super chat. Joe, what do you think?
I wanted to bring this up earlier and we didn't get to it.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it. I'm sorry.
No, not the question. I'm just saying when we were doing the preview, I wanted to bring up Texas's offensive line. Texas's offensive line deserves more credit. I think this is more of an evenly matched battle than some people realize.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's even.
I don't think it's even. I think Michigan's got the advantage
by a hair.
4 or 5 hairs.
Maybe.
Okay. My thought is, well, like I just said, Michigan's D-line versus Texas's O-line. I'll give me Michigan all day long. Mainly because of Mason Graham, if I'm being honest. Like, dude, did you see him last week?
Yeah, I mean, he's always phenomenal.
He's on another planet, dude. Like, I don't.
Going up against Fresno State offensive lineman, though, so like, of course, he's going to look like
he was doing that against everybody else last year too.
I know. I'm not discrediting him. He's a phenomenal player. So is Will Johnson.
Want to get to our picks here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Joe, you know what song I played all week this week?
What was that?
We are the champions.
All right, you won 1 week. You won 1 week.
All right, so here are our standings here. If it's your first time watching our pick'ems, me and Joe picked 10 games in college football last week. He went 6-4. I went 7-3, so just 1 game off. No big deal. Joe can come back. Let's see if he can do it this week. But, Joe, let's start from the left here. We talked about Texas and Michigan and Colorado and Nebraska here. You're going with Colorado. I'm going with Nebraska, but we both are going with the Longhorns.
Yeah, I know it's kind of funny listening to that preview, and we both still pick Texas. Yeah, I still just think that there's a separation of two teams that have good defenses. One has a better defense in Michigan, but the offensive potency for Texas is far greater than what Michigan brings to the table. So it feels pretty easy to me. I don't know what that score is going to be, though. It's either going to be 3 points, but I think it's probably going to be a 10-point victory.
I just think, at the end of it all, Texas gets the late game possession, scores, and quarterback play. It's just so drastic, okay, in late games that I think that it's going to be their deciding factor. I'm picking Nebraska. We just literally got done talking about that. If you're watching this clip segment, just go over to our other video why I picked Nebraska here. Joe,
I go Colorado. Colorado's my pick.
Yeah, and Colorado's your pick. Kentucky versus South Carolina, one that we both think might get pretty ugly here.
Yeah, we both went back and watched the ODU game, and there really was not much to get excited about for South Carolina. And I think that the inverse applies where Kentucky's defense looks great. It looks really, really smothering and just so freaking dominant. So I'm riding the team that I feel I have faith in at least one side of the football. I think South Carolina could be a dead fish most of the year, man. I don't know where they string together more than 4 wins.
What's interesting to me about this one is, you know what, man? I'll give Beamer one thing. That front seven he's got is no joke. And
it is very good.
It is very good. And the thing that I keep asking the question on is, man, if Brock Vandagriff starts getting hit and pressured a lot, what starts happening in that game? But like you said, I'm going Kentucky here. I just think their defense is way too good and to be discredited. And I do think that they're going to make more plays. Now they're going to, play their same style of football, but the defense is just so smothering. And look, man, Lenora Sellers had 23 passes last week, only 10 completions.
Brutal.
It has the markings of it being a blowout. Let's just say that. We'll see how it happens. Tennessee versus NC State. We're both going with the Vols.
I feel really good about this one. Tennessee is going to smoke NC State. Smoke! NC State looked like they were still kind of figuring themselves out. They were just trying to get a feel for things. They let Western Carolina play too close with them. And Nico I was just slinging it all over the field, just making some unreal plays that only like 3-4 guys in college football can make. He might end up finishing the year as the best quarterback in the country. I think that there is room for something like that to happen. There is going to be like 2 throws in this game where after them we're going to be like, oh, this game's over. The second big touchdown that they have, we're just going to be scratching our head going, why did we schedule this? Why was this even put on the schedule?
Why don't you just pick them to win your national champion? Why don't you?
I'm not going to go that far, but I really like Tennessee this year. I'm in on them. I'm very in on them.
Then why didn't you put them in your playoff?
I changed my mind after 1 week. I wanted to see Nico throw.
So 1 week against a very bad opponent, you've changed your mind.
No. Okay, I had deliberated. I had Tennessee in originally, and then I swapped out and put Alabama in, and I changed my mind again. I have Tennessee back in. They're going to be fighting for the last SEC spot.
Basically, you're just doing the hokey pokey.
I'm not doing the hokey pokey. I'm not doing the hokey pokey. Don't make it seem like there's thought. Don't make it seem like there's not thought going into this. There's thought going into this.
And Nico shakes it all about.
They're going to be fighting for the last SEC spot. I'm picking Tennessee until there's any separation.
Nico, I agree with your thoughts on Nico here. I'm not going to trash NC State like that, okay? But what I'd say is I just think you're right. They're offensively, they're just going to be so good and potent that I think that this one also has some markers to get ugly if things go the way we think. Joe, we split on this one. Oklahoma State goes to Arkansas. You have the Hogs. I'm going with Oklahoma State.
I can't really fully tangibly explain this one. As I said in the preview, it has upset smell to it. I feel like Oklahoma State is going to be a good Big 12 team, but for some reason, the way that Vanderbilt-Virginia Tech game played out kind of reminded me, hey, maybe these back-end SEC teams are a lot more competitive than we think. And Taylon Green looked really freaking good, and Jaquindon Jackson looked really good. If there is an instance where their run game takes over and their diverse offense starts to really shine, I think Arkansas could steal this one.
Like I told you in the preview, in case people that are on live that don't know what we're talking about, Joe and I did a recorded segment. You can go catch here on YouTube of us breaking this game down. I don't actually hate you leaning the way that you are against Arkansas. Because when you see an offense do something like that and score on all 10 possessions and do what they did, I understand that. I also understand it's Arkansas Pine Bluff. And I feel where you're coming from. I feel the part of what you're trying to say with Arkansas. But you know why? Sam Pittman's a good guy, but Petrino's a good story. They got some what looks like to be some playmakers. We want them to be good. I think that just college football fans in general, if you have no dog in the fight, you want Arkansas to be good. I just think that Oklahoma State's too established, and I think that running game is going to give them problems. I don't think that defense is as good as some people are saying that they're going to be. Now, I can be proven wrong there. I agree with Phil Steele. I think their linebacker play is not that good. I think that at times last week it was still mediocre at best against a very bad opponent. Getting lost in coverage against APB is not good at all. And look, I understand what you're saying, and the SEC has this moniker too, along with the Big Ten. When they go up against these Big 12 teams, 9 times out of 10, they beat the dog shit out of them. That's how it normally works. I need to see Arkansas do it first. Do I think that they can? Yeah, I do. But it's Joe, I got to tell you, here was a hot take that I had today. I was talking to our buddy Chris Phillips over at SEC Unfiltered. I think this might be the best game of the weekend that nobody wants to talk about.
Yeah, it's kind of gotten brushed aside. It's going to be a fun game.
Aside. And I'm thinking to myself, like, hey, man, this thing's got a lot of storylines in it. Because you know what? If Oklahoma State beats Arkansas, we're like, I mean, are they really that bad? Like, are they gonna lose to Utah? Are they gonna be, one of those automatic bids? And you know what else we do? We look at Arkansas and say, you know what? Sam Pittman swallowed his pride. He regrouped himself. Let's go, Sam Pittman. Because who hates Sam Pittman? Nobody hates Sam Pittman. At least I don't. Do you?
No.
Okay. I got fired up for that Arkansas Oak State stabbing. All right, we were going to break this one down a little bit, Joe. Iowa versus Iowa State here. We both went with the Hawkeyes.
We just kind of hit the lead into this with the other game that we just talked about. Big 10 team against a Big 12 opponent. I think that Iowa State is competitive and good for Big 12 standards. I don't think that they're going to touch a defense this good the entire rest of the season. Iowa's defense is unbelievably unstoppable. They are freaking phenomenal. Now, did their offense look like a complete mess for the whole first half against Illinois State? Yeah, they were comically bad. And then suddenly they caught a spark and they were able to gain a little bit of juice later on in the game. When you have a defense that is just so much more starkly dominant in a game like this, in a rivalry game, I have to go with Iowa. I have to. I can't not, and I've been really high on Iowa for the entirety of the preseason. This feels like a game that they handedly win. And they not handedly like they'd blow them out, but just feels like they've got a really strong hold of the game throughout the entirety of it.
I just made fun of you about backtracking, and I talked so much positivity about Iowa State this offseason, only to pick Iowa here.
Right.
That second half of them offensively, I felt the pulse. I mean, you got Caleb Johnson that had over 10 yards of carry. Look, man, Cade McNamara made some throws. Okay, and I'm like, oh shit. By the way, Joe, he had 31 attempts. I mean, they were I don't want to freak out over an Iowa offense, okay? I'm not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But do you get what I'm saying, though? Like, they did exactly what they were supposed to do. And I like when teams do exactly what they're supposed to do. I don't know if Iowa State can run the football. They sure as hell couldn't do it last week when they won 21-3. And Samo's a good back. You got to get him the football. Rocco Becht is the better quarterback in this one. And, Joe, if there is something that's holding me back here, okay, I really, really feel that they got some really good playmakers on the outside in Rocco Becht. I think that this is a 3-point game either way. If Iowa State upsets them, I would not be shocked. I will say this. My head tells me Iowa. My gut tells me Iowa State. So I'm just flipping a coin here. If I lose, I lose. If I win, I win. I just really, really do think that Rocco Becht is such a better quarterback than McNamara that starts challenging some things.
Yeah, no, I get it. You want to throw out a take there that'll allow the Iowa State fans to support you a little bit, and then the Iowa fans won't get super mad at you. No, I get it. I don't even know if Iowa State fans exist. Fans? I was going to say, I don't know if they got
actually. Yes,
it's just stalks of corn.
Well, the women's college basketball, me covering LSU, I found out that Iowa actually has fans. A lot of them.
I was saying Iowa State. Iowa has fans. Oh. Iowa State, it's just stalks of corn. I have no idea who's filling this stadium.
Anyway, Georgia Tech at Syracuse. Joe, we both take Georgia Tech here.
It would be really exciting if Kyle McCord, looking at you, Elks, if Kyle McCord lit the world on fire, and then we've just got all this cannibalization in the ACC. Yeah, I feel like Georgia Tech really showed me that they're hard-nosed, and for a first-year head coach, still trying to get his footing underneath him, and they looked promising in the first game. Georgia Tech looks like they could be maybe a ranked team by the end of the year.
Completely agree with what you just said. Baylor versus Utah, Baylor versus just Utah. We forgot the
Sorry.
We forgot the verses on Kansas, Illinois too.
Okay.
But Baylor versus Utah. Joe, I hate this for Dave Aranda, but they're about to get their asses beat.
Yeah, this is kind of a freebie one I threw up on the board. Not much of a challenge for Utah. Sorry, Dave.
Here's what I'd say, though. Dave's got serious speed at receiver. Serious speed. How do I want to say this? I think you more than most understand what I'm about to say. I had a pretty interesting phone call this week with somebody at Baylor. Dave's got to win this football game.
Okay.
Yeah, he really needs to win this football game. He needs to turn.
I believe that.
Also, they're gonna throw some bombs against Utah, whether win, lose, or draw. They're throwing bombs because they're gonna try to use their speed. I have no idea if this is gonna work for them, but we'll see. Kansas versus Illinois. We both go with the Jayhawks here, Joe.
Yeah, Illinois is not, after I got duped by them last year for thinking that they could be good. Kansas smoked them last year with Jalen Daniels. Jalen Daniels is going to do it again this year. Sorry. Jayhawks win. 14 points.
Hot take.
Oh, no.
Do you think – or let me ask you this. Have you played with Penn State on College Football 25?
No.
Their offensive playbook's the best in the game.
Is that your hot take?
Andy Kotelnicki's playbook, Penn State's playbook, is the best playbook to play with on that game. I promise you. Now,
okay.
He was at Kansas last year.
Yes.
Okay, I'm tying it into that. Here comes Kansas. Here comes the Big Blue out there in the Jayhawk land. Give me Big Blue.
Yeah, I think they win pretty handedly. I don't see that game being an even matchup.
Probably won't be. All right, last one we have here, Duke versus Northwestern. Joe, I heard that there's going to be a massive debate outside the stadium after this game.
Yeah, there's a lot of
smart people going to that game.
A lot of smart people for the 15 people that go and actually watch this game. Look, Duke's still in a feeling out period. I think that Northwestern showed to me and kind of reminded me like how hard-nosed and physical they were last year. Miami of Ohio is a really good MAC team. They're like top 2 in the MAC, and they embarrassed them. Like they really blew past them. I think that this game could be close, and I'm going to put my faith in Northwestern that's kind of already got a established momentum moving forward, and their offensive coordinator is phenomenal. So I'm leaning Northwestern over Duke.
Why does Manny Diaz always make me pick him? Why do I want Manny Diaz to be good?
It's a great question.
Maybe because he looks like – I know he's not, but maybe because he looks like my cousins, you know? Like he looks like a good Italian, you know, but he's not Italian.
Yeah,
slick back hair, you know, little tan he's got working here. Malik Murphy, better quarterback in this game. Give me Malik Murphy and Manny Diaz. That's where I'm going with it. All right. We will see y'all again on Sunday, and we'll recap all of week 2. But, Joe, it's been a good week. It's going to be fun. Let's see how this weekend goes. I'm very much fired up for it, buddy.
Hell yeah. Juiced up for it.
Why do you have to say pause-worthy things to end the show?
Okay, I don't say anything that's pause-worthy. How about you get your mind out of the gutter? That's on you.
Up. Yeah, that's what she said. See you tomorrow. See you on Sunday. Peace.